Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show. Our guest this week is an Air Force veteran and a true friend and advocate for his fellow veterans. He's an accomplished singer and songwriter and one of the nicest and most genuine guys you'll ever meet. Please welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show, Donovan Chapman. Hi, Donovan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Rosie. Glad you guys have me. Glad to be here. This is awesome. I've followed you guys' shows, and you guys have picked up a lot of friends of mine in the past, and I've loved to follow it, and I'm glad to be with y'all, man.
Well, we are thrilled and honored to have you on, Donovan. Been looking forward to this since you and I chatted a few weeks ago, and appreciate what you said about the show, too. We've got a lot that we want to talk to you about, but before I get into any of that, Donovan, I'd like to do two things. One, Rosie just mentioned you're an Air Force veteran. I want to thank you for your service to our country and for all that you continue to do for other heroes who have served. Very much appreciate it. Without you and those heroes, we don't get to do this. So thank you for that, number one. And number two, I wanted to take a moment to pay tribute to your beloved PJ. Your posts last week on social media were very beautiful, very moving about PJ. And for our viewers who may not know who PJ is, if you could just take a moment and just share with us a little bit about him and that very special relationship that the two of you had.
Yeah, so PJ he was 14 and a half years old, and he was a service brother to me. You know, as I met him and found him at a show I was doing in Tallahassee one time, and I paid $100 for him. And PJ was just always a very gentle soul, a very connected dog to me right off the bat. The barrier between K9 and human left. It was just, he was so smart. I could talk to the dog, and PJ knew everything. He bet he could understand. And as I grew with him, I realized this dog is strong enough to be a service animal. And so he went through the commands, went through the training. PJ really stepped up and did a good job for me. And he's been very instrumental in my life as I went through my trials and tribulations with surgeries and with PTS and other things in life. It all kind of compiles onto you. PJ gave his life. He lived 14 and a half years. He gave all of his life to me, and I was only given 14 years of my life to him. But it was a very tough thing last week. I felt like a piece of me was taken from me. I've never went through a loss like that. I've suffered loss of friends from combat. I've suffered loss of family members. But with PJ, it was something different. And he fought cancer. He had actually a tumor in his face, and his hips were sufflated. So he was having a hard time walking, but the tumor had taken over in 3 months to where it was just horrific. It was into his eye and his nose and his throat and his mouth, and he could barely eat. And it was hard for me to let him go, but I knew that he had done his job, and I couldn't let him suffer anymore. But he was there for me as the deepest soul animal I think I could ever have. And the morning was horrific last week. It was actually Eddie Kilgallen, who is our band leader and tour manager for Eddie Montgomery and us on the road. And he lives on this side of town, and he took me there and was a good brother. And he had to drive me back. Of course, I was in no shape to drive. It was just such a shock and awe to have his little life. And I didn't realize how much it was going to hurt until his soul left his body. And I knew I couldn't take it back. I knew I could not go backwards. And how much would I give just to have one more night with him? And I knew that night may be an eternity for him with the situation he was in. But he never let it show his pain. He never whimpered. It was very clear. He lost 50 pounds, and it was very clear. And I held his body after he passed and put my face to his, and there was no longer life in that little dog. Used to be a big dog. And that was tough. It was really tough. And I had to go through the mourning process. And, the stages of grief are very real. They're normal, guilt, anger, despair, penitence, all these things you're going to go through in the 5 stages of grief. But I've been trained at it, and I know what to recognize about myself. And as we took off and left and went to Louisiana last week to visit my father-in-law, just to get out of the house, because it's so strange being in here, without PJ, because he's been all over the country with me and with my wife and I, and been such a staple as a part of our life. And I was praying, I've been praying constantly, God, give me peace, give me something, a sign. I mean, what's it going to be here? And I felt yesterday something that overcame me, that it was without a shadow of a doubt God answering what I needed to hear. And I felt as if when I sung, right, I felt it, the words just came onto me, and then I had an image of Christ with PJ and PJ with my friends. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good image. But the words came over to me. As long as you love him, he'll always be with you. There is no separation. Love crosses all barriers of space and time. Love crosses all barriers of worlds, wherever that may be, according to what you may believe. Love crosses the barrier of death, and they know it, and we will know it. And God told me, as long as you love him, PJ will always be with you until you see him again. And I do believe, I'm a firm believer in that our animals, especially the righteous as animals, will be in heaven. I do believe that. It says in Revelations that, that God's children and all creatures in heaven will rejoice and praise him. And that's our animals, all creatures. Wow. And you can go through the Bible and find so many verses about that, about how our creatures will be in animals, will be in heaven, that, that all will rejoice his name. And so I know that in my heart. When God sent me that was it. I was like, now we can plow. Now we can get through this. We can get moving. And I'm still going to miss him. I'm always going to love that boy. And so many people, he was a famous dog. He's done probably 5,000 to 10,000 shows with me on stage and just sitting in the guitar case. He definitely, the Tips did do well when PJ was with me. I'll miss that. But they loved PJ and seeing him. But yeah, it's been a tough time. And also I knew there was a learning lesson to learn from this. And as I was praying last night, I was in here on my knees praying with my our other dog, our poodle, Golden Doodle, and I was praying with him because he's having a hard time. And I felt that there's a learning lesson behind this. There was a design behind it. And the design is for me, is to be gentle, be kind, and love others as how PJ loved me. And so to learn from PJ's love toward humanity and toward everyone he met without judgment, especially in today's time where people have more hatred in their hearts and problems with everything else going on, that we are losing the Christian way of loving one another and forgiveness and not being judgmental.
There is so much to learn from animals, like their unconditional love and loyalty. And they do. I believe that you helped his soul and he is helping to teach you. And we're so sorry for your loss. This is devastating, even knowing that you'll see each other again and that he is in heaven and healed and all of those good things to grab onto, but the physical separation is still difficult. So we will keep you in our prayers, as well as for PJ's precious soul. But we do hold the knowing that you'll be reunited one day, but hopefully it'll be a long time.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we also appreciate our first and longest running sponsor of the show, Tom and his team of insurance professionals at the Malin Agency. If world-class customer service and doing business with someone you can trust is important to you, give Tom and his team a call today for all your insurance needs.
Now, I want to backtrack a little bit. When you graduated high school, you enlisted in the Air Force. What inspired you to do that? And was music already a big part of your life at that time?
Well, music was a part of my life growing up, singing and playing in church, playing ukulele and singing in the choir, playing drums in church. And I was raised, pretty, solid Christian family. And when I joined the military, it was kind of a thing where my dad was like, get your tail in college or join the military. You got to go. You got to get your life going. You got to do something. And so I chose to, me and one of my friends that I was in high school with, we chose to join together. And our entry time was a little different, but we both joined the same summer and went into the Air Force. And I took the first thing that would take me, and that was a security policeman. Actually, at the time, I was a security specialist. So I joined in as a security specialist, and 17 years old in 92, returned 18 in November 29th of 92, and enjoyed it. I've never been on a plane before. It was the first time being on a plane, and it was such an experience, right? If you're a child, basically you're still a child, and you're going into being a man, and now you're going to grow up into the military. You're actually going to mature as a man in the service. And being able to see the world and meet other people from around the country. I'd never met people from New York, California. These were all just things I saw on TV growing up, because we lived in a really small rural community north of Monroe, Louisiana, called Rocky Branch. Very small community, and everybody there's kin one way or another. But it was fun. Went in and joined, and then I really wasn't playing a lot of music. I was picking and grinning a little bit here and there, and then they sent me to Minot, North Dakota, and I was like, this is a heck of a way to start, the military. It was freezing up there, and I enjoyed it. I met some nice people there, and made the best of what I could do. And then I chose to go to Korea, Kunsan Air Force Base, Korea, which is what's called a remote short tour, to get out of an assignment to hopefully get sent to another assignment. And so I put on my dream sheet Hawaii, so that I could go meet my mom's side of the family, because my mom's full native Hawaiian, to meet my Hawaiian family. And 5 of us got orders from Korea to Hawaii. And a week before we left, 4 of those gentlemen were sent back to Minot, and their orders were pulled. And I was the only one that was sent on to Hawaii. Wow. And that's when my music really started, when I got back into, because my mom raised us in a Hawaiian culture, right? But when I really dove into my Hawaiian culture in Hawaii, the music is such music, food, and family. Ohana, music, food. Kanikapila, ohana. It's so great. It's the best food in the world to me. You got the fusion of so much cultures. But then I started really playing again and singing, and that's where, it kind of showed me itself. And then I cross-trained in the pararescue. I wanted to take it to the highest level of what I could do in the Air Force for me and be challenged. And so I joined the Special Warfare Pararescue teams and was in training for a couple of years. And as going through the hardships of that and losing friends after 9/11 and combat, I chose to deal with my emotions and my feelings by picking up the guitar. And that's where my career in music started.
Wow.
And Donovan, with the pararescue team, I mean, that has, if I've read correctly in the past, that is the elite of the elite. I mean, it's only the best of the best actually make that team. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's up there. It'd be the best of the best in the component of what we do, for sure, in that type of element, because pararescuemen are trained to free fall, to combat dive, to insert, extract through pretty much any fixed wing or rotary wing we have aircraft in the inventory. But pararescuemen are the elite trauma special operations medics who go in and pick up people or troops or what it need to be, assets, when no one else can get in there to them. To where, such as your SEALs get pinned down, such as your Green Berets and your Deltas and your Tier 1 teams, they get pinned down. Pararescuemen are the ones that are going to go in and get them. Or pararescuemen assigned with other special operations, JSOC components, Joint Special Operation Command components of the military. But they are very elite. It's pararescuemen have a 98% attrition rate, and that's the highest attrition rate compared to any military training in the DoD.
Yeah, that to be able to make it through that, and that's one of the other things, Donovan, I just wanted to touch on, because during your time of service, and I believe you served about, was it 11 years total?
Yes,
you served?
Nearly 11 years, yes, sir.
Okay. So during that time, you sustained a lot of serious injuries, went through a lot of different surgeries and recoveries, and these were some very serious things that you went through. Where did you draw the strength to get through all of that?
Well, that's kind of I can give you the short version of it. It's really no particular answer to that. You just got to go through it, right? From injuries I did receive, in the military, it was a lot of us pararescuemen receive a kind of a collage of injuries. I mean, from the jumping with all the gear on and this, the free falling and the operations, your body sustains a lot of injuries and wear and tear. And there was a couple particular incidents when I was downrange where I I hurt myself. I hurt my neck and my back really bad, and my arm, and had to have surgeries and rebuild that hand, and doing the best we can. But there, fusions in my neck and still some surgeries we got to get done. But as I left the music business after my last record deal, Category 5, where I had a top 40 on radio and records and with 42 on the Billboard charts, called House Like That. And we were slated to rock and roll, man, but I needed surgeries and I needed to work on myself. I was falling apart anxiety wise, really having a tough time, turn into what can you do on the road when you're having anxiety like that and you're not receiving treatment? Well, the only thing is to self-medicate with some alcohol. And so it wasn't a good thing how the situation I'd set myself up into. And I think the military as a whole at that time frame was starting to change and understanding PTS and treatment and really opening that funnel of how we bring people into it. So I left the music business and used my GI Bills, about to lose it. And so I went to college in Tallahassee, and I got my associates in Tallahassee Community College, and I went to Flagler and got my bachelor's in business from Flagler. And while I was doing all this, I was going through the surgeries and working at the same time and taking full-time school at night. And it was a very full schedule. But I was living by myself. I was alone a lot. I was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I had some friends of the community there, but living by yourself, in an old style Florida center block house with just me and PJ, it was tough. And I found myself at the bottom. And when the physical pain is on you and you're hurting and your body's trying to heal, then all the other pain that catches up with you, the emotional pain, or them, I call them bull sharks. They've been there the whole time. You've just been trying to outrun them, right? And they're just biting at you, and boy, they can get you. And when they do get their claws on you or their jaws on you, then it's tough. And I was on so many different medications from the military, from the VA. It really was a situation that needed more of a focus, I would say, from a care level. But at the end of the day, it was me that was taking it, and I take full responsibility for what I was putting in my mouth from them. But it basically took me from a level of understanding myself, the psych meds and things that I was on, to where I didn't know who I was. It basically took me out of a personality that I needed to be dealing with it in, rather than dealing with it with, I don't know who I am. How am I going to process and do this when I don't even know who I am anymore? I've got, these medications have just spun me out. So there's no baseline. And I went through some situations, found myself at a situation where I had to surrender. I'm 205 now. I was around 165 to 170 pounds when I was found. And it was very bad. And I was very close to death. Call it life, call it what you will, but it did happen. And PJ was with me. I was secured. The Pararescue Foundation secured me, and they offered me an opportunity to go to rehab for mental health, which I did. And I went to rehab, and it was the best experience of my life. And I fully believe that we need to destigmatize rehab, because there's a lot of life lessons you learn in rehab. It's not necessarily about your, the 12 steps or things like that. I kind of believe we should all have a little piece of rehab within us, because nobody's perfect and everybody's going to be tested in this life. You better best know the knowledge before you get in it, and then you have to need it to survive. It could definitely be something that could be help people in the long process of life.
I agree with
but you. Yes. I mean, when you learn the things that the brain doesn't know time, all it is an engine. We know time in our intellectual self, but the model, the engine, mind, the chemical mind, the way the brain works, in the carburetor, raw emotion, or in the carburetor, raw thought, out the exhaust, raw emotion. And it does not know that it's in the past. Well, hello, that's PTSD. PTSD is that you're not recognizing that you are living in the past, and your brain thinks it's happening right now, but you see that you're okay, and you're in the Taco Bell drive, and you're like, man, I'm just getting a burrito. Why am I freaking out? Well, your brain thinks it's happening again, and you have to be able to realize that so that you can cope. So I learned these skills in rehabilitation and through some other things in life. So the surrender was the great turn. It was the great enlightenment. It was the great knowledge, download to me. It was a complete knowledge download. And it also came with a new understanding with God, and that this is our reason for being here. And that's when my life took the lift to a new direction. And then manifestation started happening, which is you're on God's path. and manifestation happened, and then it led me to Eddie Montgomery, and then here we are, and we're doing
Well,
things and
that's what I
doing the
was going to
best we
ask
can in
you
life.
about Eddie
Mhm,
Montgomery and something to be proud of. And what is that
mhm.
like for you to be touring with them and singing with him?
He's a brother. Eddie Montgomery loves our country. He loves our troops, our veterans. He loves the people in his band. He is a very simple, just mild mannered man, just easygoing, loves to laugh. He just loves people. He loves his animals too. I mean, he talked to me last week about it, and he was a brother helping me get through this. And but it started with Eddie Montgomery. So when 9/11 happened, when we pulled out of 9/11, excuse me, you know, 3 years ago or whatever it was, when we pulled out of that, one of my best friends up here that's been working with me producing since I was in the military, how my career got started, is his production manager, Ronnie Palmer. Ronnie was talking to him, and Ronnie's always concerned about me. That's what brothers do. And he's like, I'm concerned about my brother Donovan. Remember, I've been telling you about him. He's like, Eddie knew of me as an artist in the years of being on Curb Records and Category 5 Records. And he said, well, man, just bring him out here. Have him come out here and hang out with us. Tell him, come on, man. Let's just haul him around for a weekend. Let him be with brothers. So I went out with the guys, and I just jumped on the bus and was just a brother. And it's like, what do I need to do? They're like, man, you just sit back and enjoy yourself, brother. And we just hung out. It was a good, and then I got to know Eddie, in a different way. And he brought me back out and offered me to work with him. And I said, I would love to sell you merch, man. I need to relearn this process. I've been out in surgeries, in rehabs, and trials and periods of life. I need to redevelop my confidence. I was honest. I said, I don't have my confidence where I feel it should be. I have to reinvent myself and my confidence, but I want it to be founded on the right things, not fame, but my faith, helping others, succeeding in the right way, taking care of my family, my wife, my animals. This is my now grandson. This is things that I hold dear to me. This is the reason why I'm here. I could care less about fame, but if it involves fame, to do what I need to do to help people and to be a positive image and light to others, then let's go. And so I started off just doing merch. Then the next year, Eddie wanted me to sing. So I was like, he goes, why don't you open up for me? Be my permanent opening act. Let's get you singing. So I started singing and then doing merch at the same time. And now here we are 3 years later. I manage his merch, kind of his security at the same time, bus doctor, taking care of guys and cuts and wounds and pops and aches. And now I continually open for Eddie, and I come back out and part of his show and sing something to be proud of with him as a part of his show. And there's some great things to come next year. Eddie and I have another set of some things. Can't really talk about it, but there's some really exciting things coming next year concerning how him and I interact at shows and what's going to be going on tour. We're really going to take it to the next level for our troops and for our people in this country and for patriotism. It's coming, so get ready.
Donovan, I can't wait for that. And I have to tell you, something to be proud of. I love that song. And another one of how many, Jeffrey Steele classics. But
Oh, yeah.
watching the video clip of you just a few weeks back singing that, Troy's part in that song, I got goosebumps because there aren't too many people that can do it. And you nailed it. It was phenomenal. So I hope your confidence is back because your voice is tremendous. Your talent is tremendous. And before I ask my next question, I want to share with our viewers something. Last year, September, October, was your EP, Raised Old School. I downloaded the 4 songs. I love all 4. And what you know about that has been stuck in my head. That's got the coolest guitar riff. The song's been stuck in my head for months. It's on my fitness list. I listen to it every morning at the gym. It always seems to come on. But I will also tell you there's a new song with your ukulele that was just released a couple weeks ago that's now stuck in my head. Your version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow is phenomenal. So what inspired you to break out the ukulele and record that classic?
Well, I've been doing that song live. When I was on Curb in Category 5, I was opening up for people on tour, crisscrossing with Brad Paisley, with Taylor Swift, with Jared Neiman and I were doing a lot. We were on the label together, so we were radio touring our tails off and doing a lot of mixed shows with other artists who were already out on major tour. And I would always do that song, and it received a standing ovation when I would do it with my ukulele and just two of my musicians. And I remembered something this year that the person who stood in my grandfather's stead was my uncle Don Nehe, and he was what we call our tutu, our grandfather. He was my grandfather to me, and he actually gave me a Hawaiian name, the Kealoha family name. He was like, "You Donovan Kealoha, you're another Kealoha." And he told me one time, we're sitting up in Papakolea, which is Punch Bowl Crater in Oahu, and it's on the edge of it. And you're actually, when you go up to Punch Bowl Crater and you go up the last part to go into the cemetery, you look off the cliff and you can see all Waikiki right there. That's my grandfather's homestead house right there on the corner. And so I'm sitting there on the porch with him, and we're looking out at Ala Moana and Waikiki and all the way back to Diamond Head. And I'm playing ukulele, and he goes, "Hey, let me tell you, don't you forget your Hawaiian roots, huh? But don't forget your country. One day you're going to blend it. You're going to know what it means, bro." And so I thought about it and I said, you know what? I knew Brother Is. I went to his last show. I got to meet him. I was stationed there, and I was able to go to his funeral. And I thought, what better, greater honor to, as a Kanaka, as a Hawaiian, to honor our culture with a Hawaiian version and my family with that song at the same time honoring my country roots from Louisiana. And so when I produced it, I went in with my buddy Ronnie Palmer, and we sat down, and as we produced this record, I gave it the elements of reggae. I gave it the elements of country. I gave it the elements of the Hawaiian. And really, and I was excited because I got to trade off licks with Brent Mason, one of the top guitar players of all country music, on a solo, and he's on a guitar and I'm on a ukulele doing a solo. So it was really genuine. And actually that video comes out this week. Most likely it's going to be Wednesday. It was supposed to be last week, but I was still mourning PJ, and there is a very good dedication. I don't want to blow it in the beginning of it to someone special who was in my life over the past years, who was instrumental in me receiving my rehabilitation and guiding me through and sponsoring. He's in the front of it, but he is no longer with us. So you'll have to see the video. And of course, there's something beautiful for PJ at the end. And so I just needed to mourn this a little bit, and I'm ready this week. And it is an awesome video. I produced it with my friend Tommy Lemon. We had nobody telling us what to be, what to do. The great thing about my life now is I don't have someone in the record label like before telling me, if you play ukulele on tour, we're going to drop you from your record deal. You're not being what we want you to be. Well, you cannot put me in a box. I am half Louisiana and half Hawaiian. You can't put me in a box. I don't want to be in a box. I just want to, whatever I write, well, I have a right to sing it. As long as it's tasteful, be yourself. What is being you nowadays? I mean, listen to the formats. So just be yourself. We're all mixed up of different things. And I took this video component. We didn't have anybody telling us what to do. And I took the vision out of my head, and I wanted it to be very organic. And we shot it in Franklin County, down St. George Island, Apalachicola, I lived for 10 years on the beach, and my friends and family down there. My wife is from that area actually too. And then we actually came to where I live in Tennessee here, a lake nearby, and we went to the waterfall on it, took the boat in, and with my buddy Tommy and I and his wife, and we got the cameras right, and we shot it so it looks just like a waterfall in Hawaii.
That sounds beautiful.
It's beautiful. And so the video it includes my grandson River as well.
That is the beauty and freedom of being an independent artist. So glad that you're feeling that liberation of being able to express yourself the way you want to.
Woohoo!
Yeah. And Donovan,
Absolutely.
the time goes by so fast, but we just want to say thank you so much for coming on. There's many more things we want to ask you about, so we're just going to have you back. But in the meantime, we wish you all the best with all your projects, all the work you're doing with the veterans, and may God give you peace to your soul and to PJ's soul. And we thank you so much for coming on the show. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It's been a blessing to be with you all. And as you know, I can talk, so definitely let me know when you want me back on. I have tons of things to talk about if you want to talk about. And thank you guys for your love, your patriotism, and what you stand for. It's an honor to talk with you all. Bill, I'm very honored that you reached out. Rosie, thank you for your time. Let's keep a great friendship going. Let's do whatever we can to help this country.
Oh, God bless you. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Swamp made a swamp haze, a swamp raise. A Louisiana boy came home to play. Fired up my high school 77, straight from granddaddy way up in heaven. Tearing up a more highline roads. I hang a deer stand on a power line pole. Deer feeders out waiting on the rud. Louisiana boy's gonna hunt. Cajun on, sing my song. Get your shotgun and your one-eyed dog. Get online in the duck blind. A high-brass 6-leg shot is just fine. What you know about that? A whitetail rack, double drop time 10. As a matter of fact, hanging on the wall, the farm out back. Ain't get stuck 'cause my truck is jacked. What you know about that? I've been in many countries around the world. I made it back home, I got a southern girl living on the farm, burning oak and grease, frying catfish with the grits and cheese. She said the city life is overrated. She'd rather be dipping in the Luda Basin, sinking on down in the bayou mud, stumping to the floor, let her run. Cajun on, sing my song. Get your shotgun and your one-eyed dog. Get online in the duck blind. High-brass 6-leg shot is just fine. What you know about that? A whitetail rack, double drop time 10. As a matter of fact, hanging on the wall, the farm out back. Ain't getting stuck 'cause my truck is jacked. What you know about that? What you know about that? Yeah. What you know about that? That's right. Redneck on, redneck on. Redneck on, sing my song. Get your shotgun, let your one-eyed dog. Get on blind in the duck blind. High-brass 6-leg shot of this time. What you know about that? A whitetail rack, double drop time 10. As a matter of fact, hanging on the wall, farm out back. Ain't get stuck 'cause my truck is jacked. What you know about that? A whitetail rack, double drop time 10. As a matter of fact, hanging on the wall, the farm out back. Ain't get stuck 'cause my truck is jacked. Yeah. What you know about that? Redneck on, sing my song. What you know about that? A whitetail rack, double drop time 10. As a matter of fact, hanging on the wall, the farm out back. Ain't getting stuck 'cause my truck is jacked. What you know about that?
This week's episode has been brought to you by Doherty & Company Insurance Services for all your business and personal insurance needs. Our friends at Tennis Addiction in Exton, PA. And the Malin Agency, where exceeding expectations is how they do business.